right, guys. I found an interesting one for you. More true Earth proof, supposedly. This is a. I was scrolling through Twitter and I came across this one. Supposedly it's from PBS from like years ago. It looks like something from, I don't know, maybe the 80s or 90s, possibly. It looks legit. I don't know where they dug this from because the way this thing plays, this is something that's definitely been scrubbed, if not from the internet, from TV itself, because this looks, and the way they speak in it is in the same cadence and way they speak when they're speaking of the heliocentric model. Like, you know how matter of fact they sound when they start talking about like the Big Bang and stuff, like, well, because of the Big Bang, that is why, and you're like, well, like they're sure. That's how these people are coming off. But at least when it comes to this model, the level plane model, it's practical. Like, you hear somebody say that, like, yeah, I could try that tomorrow, you know. But let's see, let's see if this is legit, and whatever pops up, I'll chime in on it.
That the Earth is a spherical object that revolves around the Sun. But the fact is, of course, that the Earth is a circular dish surrounded by a barrier of ice that explorers have been attempting to penetrate for centuries. 2000
Yeah, matter of fact, that sounds okay.
Years ago, an Egyptian scholar by the name of Eratosthenes performed an experiment that he claimed proved the Earth to be a sphere. However, there are serious doubts about the accuracy of his data and his scientific procedures. Dr. Leo Ferrari explains.
Oh, the Eratosthenes experiment is an experiment supposedly conducted in the 1st century, whereby this ingenious person was supposed to have proved, I say that in quotes, that the Earth was a sphere of some 4,000 miles radius. Eratosthenes one day...
Okay, this is one thing that pops out. The name and the depiction here. So I've seen my fair share of flat earth videos, and this guy comes up a lot, but I don't remember being taught that this in particular in school. I don't even remember it being pronounced this way. Eratosthenes. I thought it was Aristophanes. That's how I heard it, like in recent videos I've been coming across. But they've never used that in my class when we were learning, or classes when we were learning about the heliocentric model. But what I find interesting is, I don't know if you guys have seen a depiction of him before, tell me, but the way this was depicted, this guy straight up looks Egyptian, but the name, if you didn't see the image of him and somebody just told you this person's name and told you where he did this experiment, you're like, oh, he's totally like Greek or Roman or Greco-Roman, right? That's the first thing that can, I'm seeing this and I'm like, wait, that's him? So I would like anybody to confirm if this is how he was actually portrayed beyond this right here, because this is very interesting. That with that name like that, and you're looking like this confirms other things for me, but I'll get into it in a moment.
Noticed that the sun was directly overhead in Syene, whereas he noticed that on the same day, at the same time, the sun made an angle of 7.2 degrees to the vertical at Alexandria, which was some 530 miles away. How did Eratosthenes in the 1st century know what the sun was doing on the same day in two places which are 530 miles apart? One can take all those same data. No.
I'm sorry, but my man's his expression, son, that shit's hilarious. Yeah, I was like a comedy skit. Like, damn, the editing was bad back then. But yo, beyond that point he just made, that name. Okay, so his name's Eratosthenes. Okay, that's his name. It's Greco-Roman, clearly, because keep in mind, during these days, right? Isn't this when Rome was ruling Egypt? When there was a lot of that like going on? Isn't that when, and I've already explained before, And I really can't wait to get into this. I explained before that heliocentrism was introduced by the Romans, by the Jesuits. This was their creation. This was their baby. They are heliocentrists. They worship the sun. So if an Egyptian guy is there wondering what's going on, isn't he of Roman influence to even try to prove it? If it was being taught back in those days, that theory was being taught back in those days. So you're gonna try to experiment, right? So it makes sense that dude would do that, and with that name. Interesting, yo.
Showing that the Earth is flat. In one place you have the sun directly overhead, and at another place, at the same time, at 530 miles away, let us suppose that it does make an angle of 7.2 degrees to the vertical. Then we have a right angle triangle, which it can be easily shown that the sun is a sum of 4,000 miles up in the sky. These superficial even considerations show that it's impossible. The whole thing, it's a story, a fairy story made up.
And that turtle thing, let me go back a bit. If you see my last video, my last Mount Meru video from Jeranism's channel with Whitset, he was explaining the whole Mount Meru in the center of the earth and the calendar and stuff like that. That's where this, just to make it clear if you guys didn't see that video, that's where this turtle comes from.
These superficial vertical, and at another place, at the same time, at 530 miles away, let us suppose that it does make an angle.
Yeah, so that's where this turtle comes from. Here, it's not that we're on a turtle. No, if you check out that video, I'll put it at the end cards for this one, so you'll see what I'm talking about.
2 degrees to the vertical. Then we have a right angle triangle, which it can be easily shown that the sun is a sum of 4,000 miles up in the sky. These superficial even considerations show that it's impossible. The whole thing, it's a story, a fairy story made up and mindlessly repeated in.
Made up again by the Jesuits, by the Romans. This was a theory that they were pushing. And all of a sudden, in the 1900s, it suddenly became law.
Textbooks.
Fortunately, not all scientific arguments are based on such questionable research. The Greek astronomer Ptolemy determined to everyone's satisfaction that the Earth is flat, circular, and the central body in the universe. His theory went unchallenged for 1,200 years.
And that's the thing, yo. It wasn't even, this wasn't a theory. This is what people were living by. Like, people weren't, this was like default setting belief or knowing, right? This was default. It became a theory because that's when they started pushing this crap into the people's minds back in the day, because the Romans were ruling everything. Son, these people are usurping So of course, like, people born, like, if this is a common thing that they've been pushing and they've been taking over country by country, right? And this is being taught. As the years go by, new generations are born under not the default setting anymore, just like us today, born in the 1900s and the 2000s. We're born learning these things and questioning, is this a theory or not? Not knowing what was dead set, matter of fact, law, observably, and all that stuff. That doesn't matter, because you're born the moment you go into school, or even your parents are going to tell you that this is heliocentric based on the rulership's laws and their rules and their teachings. Why would you bother thinking about it? That's why there are so few, and there's so few that raised their hand, was like, hold up, there's something wrong here. They get ridiculed, they get persecuted, all those things. At least we don't get persecuted. Well, we get persecuted online today, but so you gotta think about that. This is like a theory that ran wild based on a certain sect, their teachings, and telling you, that's how you. It's not that you can't just say, "Oh, this was believed back then." You can't say that, yo. You can't say that when this was introduced. And I do have a video coming out that breaks down where this model comes from. The the people who did it, I have that video's coming out, and I'm gonna break that down straight up because I already saw that movie. So, and upon watching this and seeing that Aristophanes part, I'm like, I'm connecting the dots because I didn't even think of that because I don't think he was mentioned in that movie. But moving on.
Not surprising, really. One need only look around. However, the notion
Without a fisheye lens camera.
that it was some other shape gained some acceptance during the Renaissance. These were impoverished times. Most writers, artists, and
Look at the artwork, y'all. Yo, look at that artwork. The same people I'm telling this is that why is them. And this little documentary here is pointing that out. Yo, use your eyes. Look, don't tell, show, don't tell. I learned that in film school. Show, don't tell. That's what they're doing right here. Now, don't just listen to the words. Look at the visuals they're showing. Look who's depicted. Isn't that Poseidon / Neptune right there? These people were running shit. They were worshiping the sun, the black hole sun, Saturn, Kronos, all of them, yo. This is from them, but we're taking it as if it's a fact. And a lot of people, a lot of people that ridicule flat Earth and stuff like that, they call everything a myth. A lot of them are atheists. They call everything a myth. They'll call this a myth, but this is what they believe in. This is what they were teaching during these days and shit. While they're teaching these gods and stuff, they're teaching that model. So the model is okay, but these figures are bullshit, right? This doesn't make sense. You got this. Carrying on.
scientists could not support themselves through their work. They depended on the patronage of the upper class. Consequently, creative and original thinking men let their imaginations run rampant in order to attract support. In 1543, the Polish astronomer Copernicus suggested the bizarre notion that the Earth is a round ball that circles the sun. But his book emphasized it was only a hypothesis.
Ooh, this reminds me, one thing that was in that movie, a term was created. I forgot by who, because when I go through that movie, you will get the names, I'll start talking about it. But one thing that was said was learned versus learned, or learned against the learned, right? So they were allowing all these crazy ideas to come around, and they'll have their little debates and stuff, but the powers that shouldn't be will determine what was real and what was not. Just so they'll have like a certain amount of people like arguing against and a certain amount arguing for, and then the higher ups will determine. So that way you'll be able to say, well, a lot of people believe this, that they proved this and stuff like that, and they made their final decision. That's why this is what we have today. This is kind of deep to get into because it's like a way future topic, but I would also include the reason why these things kept getting forgotten and retaught, and why they had to start all over again in the 1900s because of certain resets that happened in the in-between leading up to today. All right, because I find it interesting that we're learning this stuff, then later on, and then we're learning stuff from the 1800s and before, right? Then when the 1900s comes along, we're getting public figures and even people back in those days talking about the level Earth, like that's common knowledge, free electricity, free energy, like it's common, right? Then we have Admiral Byrd, who went out beyond the edge of Antarctica and discovered new land. He said this as a matter of fact, and on the show he said this on, This wasn't fiction. This wasn't some bullshit TV show. This was basically the news back then. This was basically like what the showing is going on, right? And behind them, there was a flat map as they're speaking, and they're talking about it as a matter of fact because they're not questioning back then if this is round or flat. They're questioning, is there really something outside there, like beyond? That's how they're speaking about this. And that's what was portrayed back in the day. Since then, he died mysteriously, and then NASA's formed, and you could look up all that stuff. I'll point them out in future videos, and I'll just drop them, and also in the heliocentric video I'm working on. But then you'll see for yourself, like how convenient everything became. Convenient deaths, then convenient theories that came out. Then all of a sudden it's proven by their law, like they say it's proven. Nobody agreed, but okay.
He further avoided controversy by withholding the book for 13 years, and then by dying on the day it was published. So Copernicus' notion that the Earth was a ball you couldn't fall off of was readily embraced by businessmen. And when Magellan's crew claimed to have circumnavigated the globe in 1522, it was seen as a new piece in the scientific puzzle. But more importantly, it was seen as a strong psychological boost for free enterprise. It's also been seen as a huge publicity stunt.
Again, most interesting. Now we have reasons. Now we got reasons for it, yo. All right. I dig this, yo. I'm like, there's no way this will be airing now. I would like to know who found this shit. Like, who found that? And released this, because you see how matter of fact they were about it. Like, there's no way this will be airing, yo. I've never seen this before. And look at the, like, I would say this is legit. So, and it makes sense. And it confirms the documentary I'll be covering on the origins of heliocentrism. So, like, the way this, it just puts everything together. Thank God. I'm glad I found this shit. Because look how that dude, that professor was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, that's how you get. Like, once you discover this shit, that's how you are. You're like, how did I believe? Then you understand how you believe. You're not really that mad because you give yourself a break. You're like, come on, you're born into this shit. It's like the first thing you learn. You know, not only that, if you don't learn that in school, you ask a question about the stars and shit, your parents are going to tell you that because they learned it. So, you know, so you can't really get mad at that, but this is interesting. Yep, this is getting me excited for my next one. Straight up. So yeah, give me your thoughts on this one, yo. Like, and if anybody seen this before? Yo, straight up, let me know. Straight up, because this is compelling shit right here. Wow. Dude is fucking Egyptian, and with a name like that should just tell you, okay, somebody was ruling something. You can't be that color back then with that name with the same people in that time was ruling shit, and they venerate the sun. Yo, the heliocentrists, they venerate the sun. Of course, they're going to be looking at ways to discover how this ball thing works. Because that's what they're being taught by the same people that's ruling them. The Romans are ruling Egypt at that time. That's why he's like, really? That's how it works? Then he thought first of all, yo, and that's the other thing. Like, did this guy even exist? That's one thing we got to check on, right? Because a lot of these figures weren't even named until recently, as if they're added later, because no one before them was talking about them. You know, that could be because of the resets, or that could be they just made these people up now and just saying, oh, this is why this person discovered it this long ago, blah blah blah. But in the centuries in between, they weren't mentioned at all. Very, you guys, question this shit straight up. So I'm gonna end it here. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and join my Patreon. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff that's too hot for YouTube because, I keep telling y'all, I used to get a lot more views than this. I don't know how I could have this many subscribers and nobody's seeing shit. And every time I ask a subscriber, have you seen this? Have you seen this pop up in your feed? Have you clicked the notification? Yes, they've clicked the notification. No, they haven't seen anything pop up. Or some of them don't even get notifications. And I know what they're doing. They're throttling shit. I wonder which video caused that. The one that demonetized me? Nah, this started before that. But still, yo, this... All right, so make sure, yo, join my Patreon for the price of pie. I think if you're smart enough, you could guess what that is. Also, and hit the like. Make sure you hit the like. That makes a difference as well. And check out my social media. All the links are in the description or my about page, top banner. And yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.